come sit down with me. I got a list of questions I want to ask you.
All right.
Here, let me turn it around so we can see. Make sure I'm in the picture. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go, Papaw. Not that easy. All right. Okay. When were you born?
September 17th, 1928.
1920. I did not know that, Papaw. I've never done the math. Okay. What were your favorite games whenever you were a kid?
When I was a kid, marbles.
Marbles? You like to play marbles?
Oh, I love playing marbles. We'd get out in Papaw's barn and sweep off all the cow patties, draw us a little circle. And all the kids from the neighborhood would come over, they'd have a marble shoot.
All right. Now, this is a good question.
Okay?
It's a good one.
All right.
What kind of trouble did you get into when you were a kid?
Every kind of trouble imaginable.
Do you remember any particular time?
Well, one time we got in real bad trouble. Papaw Vernon used to have rodeos, big professional type rodeos. And he ordered in a big bunch of soda pops and everything. Back then you had to give the bottles back.
Right.
Get your credit for them.
I think you have to still do that in Mexico.
So we decided we'd have a little contest out there. We'd see how many bottles we could break. We broke up about, I don't know how many cases of bottles. We had glass scattered everywhere, and we were in deep trouble.
Deep trouble? What Papaw did he?
I don't remember, but it was drastic. And one other time he had a whole bunch of tomatoes picked and had them up in the second story of the loft of the barn. And we got up there and had a tomato fight and did away with several bushels of tomatoes and made an awful mess.
Oh, Papaw.
Then one time we were trapping, and we had just had a bunch of little baby cats, and I don't remember who did it, but some of us, I said probably Earl, if he would do something like that, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Got all those little cats and skinned them and put them hung up to dry like we did a muskrat.
Oh, no. We're not going to show Mama this part.
No. And Uncle George, we had some old roosters, some chickens in the backyard. And there was one old white rooster that every time George would come out in the yard, that old rooster would chase him down and spur him.
Well, he knew which one to get, didn't he?
George got him a tub, a number 3 wash tub, put a prop on it, put some corn on there, and trapped him. And when he got him caught, he barbecued him.
You're kidding.
No.
That's funny.
Another time, there was a little next door neighbor had a little fuzzy white dog stood up about. So back then, we branded everything we could find. We each had our own brand. And George got this little white dog, put his brand on that dog. And that little kid next door and his parents liked to have had a stroke.
Papaw, y'all were bad.
Oh, that's just some of the things
Some
I
of the
can think of offhand.
What are some of the things you remember about Papaw Vernon? And I don't even know your mom's name.
Laura.
Laura?
Oh, Mom was always sickly after George was born, and she just kind of existed, I guess. She always kind of, she never did really get over George very long.
How old were you when George was born?
I would have been 3 or 4.
3 or 4?
I remember when he was born. He was, we lived back over, the road going over towards Smith's old home place over there, the little line of oak trees.
Yeah.
There were 4 houses going down that line, and we lived in the last house over there. That's where he was born. I remember when he was born. Sure did.
And I'm sure you could tell many an hour story on Papaw Vernon.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know where to start on that peckerwood. He was always into something. Of course, well, I mentioned a while ago, he had these professional rodeos, and we were always into something there. He had cattle. We were always herding cattle, branding, and rounding them up. Back then, they had ticks and stuff like that real bad. We had to gather them up and dip them.
Dip them.
Dipping bat. You run them through there, and they jump off in this little deal with maybe 6 or 8 feet deep, and they'd swim to the other side and come up on a little ramp. You don't see any of that anymore. It's an old kind of antique deal now. Dipping bath, you don't see it anymore.
Wow.
He was always trapping. He worked for Pan American, which was dated back to, started out with Yachtley, then went to Stanley, then Pan American, then Amoco. Here,
wow.
here in Highland, those were the oil companies that bought out or superseded the one prior. Started out, let's see, what was the name of the company, way back. Yachtley, I guess, was about the first one that they had. Grandma Smith had her major leases with.
Let's see. What are some of the things that we have now that you didn't growing up as a kid?
That we didn't have?
Yeah.
Indoor toilets. Refrigeration.
What did you use for a refrigerator?
Ice boxes.
Ice boxes?
They had an ice man, old Mayo Broussard's father. Old man Broussard, what was his name? Anyway, he had his little pickup truck, and he had his little ice house down here. The ice man would bring in with big chunks of 50-pound blocks of ice, and he'd distribute them all over town, just like the milkman did.
Mm-hmm.
You had an old wooden ice box. He'd come bring you a little 25-pound block of ice, and he'd set your milk on it and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have electricity here until 33, 34, somewhere along that range. Back then we had an old wood stove. We didn't have any electric cooking or gas or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. No computers or anything like that.
The only thing that would compute would be the clock would compute to about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to get up and go to school.
Oh, man.
Mama had to do her washing out on an old black iron pot. Didn't have nothing like a washing machine. You get out there with the old lye soap,
Scrub it down.
poke stick, and stir it, and hang it up on the clothesline.
That's amazing.
I remember when we first got a refrigerator. It was a gas refrigerator, an orange or something. And it had some, I forget what it was powered with, but anyway, it was. That was a real accomplishment. To have a refrigerator in the house.
I remember Mom talking about when you guys got the TV, and that was a major thing.
Oh yeah, that was, oh gosh, that was way up there.
Yeah.
Early 50s, I guess.
Mama was a teenager, a young girl, something like that.
When we married, she was a teenager for several years after that. Yeah.
Oh man. So what was your favorite meal whenever you were growing up?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Rice and beans, rice and gravy, or rice and anything has always been a favorite.
You like rice and beans? Beans and rice.
And potatoes.
And potatoes. That's where I get it from.
Mm-hmm.
I love that
Any
stuff.
kind of potato.
And we also have the same toes. Show my toes.
Yeah.
My little web toes. Let's see. What was school like whenever you went to school?
Well, back when we lived over in Old Mexico, where Taft Turner lives now, we either walked across the field over there, or rode our horse and tied him out at the tree back behind
You're
the
kidding.
school house.
You rode a horse to school.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, we would when we could catch him.
When you catch him.
If you couldn't catch him, you walked.
And was it everybody together in one grade, or did you have separate grades, or?
Oh, back then when we first started, went to school in the old, what is now the old Baptist church was down here. It was right across the street, across from on Clare Kahla Road here. It was the old church house. First 3 grades of school went to school there, and I went to school in the old church house there. It was a non-denominational church back at that time. And later they moved it across the street and made a Baptist church out of it.
Okay.
And that's where we went to school. When I was going to school there, George, or Earl rather, was going to school down at where the old schoolhouse is now, where the Methodist church is.
Okay.
That's where I graduated high school. That's where the high school and the gym and everything was right there, home ec building and all, where the Methodist church is now. And for some reason or another, he was coming from down there, and this old woman ran right down the middle of him with her car, mashed him flat.
You're kidding.
You know, he was coming down to where I was at the church. He was coming down the highway. What was her name? I can't remember. But anyway, she was one of the old roughnecks. Highland used to be a booming all town, and there was a lot of activity here. The hotels were all full of roughnecks and roustabouts in the oil field. Pan American back then was a big thing. They had all kind of facilities down there. They had a complete machine shop and everything. Now we're down at the foot of the hill where they are now, where they've abandoned it. But,
Mama Ray ran a hotel.
and she ran the old Highland Cafe, and right across the street was Grandma Kahla's, or later Grandma Oliver. She remarried again. Was her hotel.
Oh, so they both had a hotel.
Well, Mama Ray didn't. Joy's mama had the Highland Cafe.
Right.
They were in the cafe.
Oh, okay.
My grandmother had the hotel.
Okay.
And Joy and I both, when we were in high school, resided in the old Highland Hotel. We had at different times there. She roomed there with Catherine Vining, one of our teachers
Mm-hmm.
at the high school. I graduated high school in '45, and she never did. She decided she'd get out the easy way, and she married me.
Well, that's a pretty good easy way to go. You're taking good care of her, Papaw. Oh, let's see. Do you have any favorite pets when you were growing up?
Yeah, and old horses.
Bunch of horses.
Old Ranger.
Ranger?
Ranger, he had a little white streak right there on his little nose. That old horse must have lived to be 40 years old, because I'd seen him, I don't know who we sold him to, but he lived a long time. And we had an old horse called Paint, and Redbird.
Redbird?
Redbird. Uncle George, he liked to ride old Redbird, and he was a pretty frisky horse. And he'd ride him off down the old Mexico Road back toward town. And when old Redbird got ready to come home, he'd start running. And George would hang on his back like a little monkey. He was a little bitty dude, and when we'd have to get out in the middle of the road and head old Redbird off, because he'd turn him into the house where he was supposed to go. But he would. He liked to run him, but he didn't know what to do with him after he got him to run him.
That's funny. Let's see. Whenever you met Nanny, how old were you?
Oh gosh, I guess a junior in high school.
That's how you met in school?
When she first came down.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when she first came down here, she wasn't about 13, 14, 12, somewhere along 12, I guess.
Yeah, she was young.
Yeah, she was a little bit, dude, had her baby doll shoes and all that stuff. She took a terrible harassing down here with these old country gals.
Oh, I bet she did. Little Miss Prima Donna.
Oh, she was, yeah. And everybody was jealous of her. She got everything she wanted to do. Mom would buy her, give her anything she wanted. Let her buy her had a car, when she got a little bigger, where she would drive it. They were all a little bit jealous of her.
So you graduated from high school and went to college?
I went to the University of Texas.
You went to UT, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
And later I came back and went to the University of Houston.
University of Houston. Did you meet Nanny, or did you start going out with Nanny before you went to college?
No, we came back home, and we would have cattle drives and such like this. And, she went on cattle drives with us and stuff like that. We'd drive cattle. They'd swim them across the canal and ride them as far as Stoll and all up in there. Big cattle drive.
And what's one of your most memorable dating experiences with Nanny? I know you've got a couple. A couple of good ones.
I had a bunch of them. I don't remember. We actually went any place or did anything. We were always running around together and doing things together.
Well, what about when you kissed her that first time? Remember that story? I can get Nanny to tell it, I'm sure.
Well, I'll let her tell that one.
Okay. What about when you squeezed her and she tooted?
I don't want to talk about that either.
Well, when'd you guys get married? What year?
1947, March 29, 1947.
Yeah, 'cause you just had a 50th anniversary a couple of years back.
Yeah, this March is 53, I think.
53.
Would've been,
Did you guys go on a honeymoon?
yeah.
Where'd you go?
Well, we started off to go to Yosemite National Park. And we got his, San Antonio, and we borrowed Mama Ray's old car. Back then, there weren't any new cars. It was so near after the war. And it ended in 45, World War II, September, almost 46. And she had an old Cadillac that they bought, and they let us use it. She and Levi Murphy, Mama Ray's
Husband at the time.
And they continued to let us use old Cadillac, so we take off the Cadillac and we get to San Antonio. I think I don't know how much money we had, but we didn't have much. And the radiator blew up on it. We had to have a new radiator put on, fixed or repaired or something. Took us about all the money. But anyway, we got over that fiasco and started on out, and we got as far as Carlsbad Caverns, White City there. And a friend of ours, John Ed Martin, had taught here, and he was teaching at a school, a little school out there, and we went by to see him. Mama was real shy and bashful and everything, and she was a little reluctant to take care of herself, I guess you might say. And she had an attack of appendicitis.
Oh no.
And we went into this little town and went to the doctor, and he says, "You're going to have your appendix out. You never get back home." She said, "I'm not going to no hospital with all those nuns up there. I am not going to be operated on in this place," wherever it was. I don't remember. It wasn't in White City. It must have been in it was near El Paso anyway. I guess we should went to the doctor. But anyway, so we decided, well, we better go on home. So the doctor gave us a list of all the doctors all the way home that we could stop in case we had to have her operated on. But she made it back home, and she actually kept her appendix for a while.
Really?
She lived over it. It's a wonder she didn't die.
So you never made it to Yosemite?
We never made it there. We did make it to Carlsbad Cavern.
That's nice.
It was after that, I think, that she got sick. Wasn't feeling well.
Yeah. So, what do you remember about each child as they were born? Like when Mom was born?
She was the prettiest little pumpkin there was.
Yeah. With blonde hair. She barely had any hair.
Oh yeah, she was a beautiful child. Looked like a little Cupid doll.
Any at Donna?
Well, that little monkey had hair all over her. She looked like a little Mexican. She's dark, somewhat different from Lyra. And a lot of hair. Beautiful thing.
And then Aunt Debbie popped out 10 months later.
She was the most amazing little thing. It's just like she is now. She's vivacious and just when she was a day old, she'd hold her head right up and just look you right straight in the eye. And just strong and I never won't get over how she was so strong.
Yeah.
Hold herself up. And your mother, her little way up, plop, and go this way, and that way she couldn't hold her head up at all. When she was a baby that size, small.
Yeah.
And they were like the three of us, Uncle George and Uncle Earl. They were into every cotton picking thing they could find.
I was about to say, what do you remember them doing?
Well, the most memorable thing was Laura decided we was gonna paint the house, and she must have been 2, 3 years old, I guess.
Oh, no.
And I had a 5-gallon bucket of white paint. And I was just going around the house painting the house, and she was wandering around out there somewhere, and she got around there where the 5-gallon bucket of paint was. When I went back around there for a refill, she had already painted her and the ground and the house. She had paint from one end to the other, all over, like she'd gotten in there and taken her bath. And I walked around there and she gave me that little sheepish grin.
Mom was a mess, I know.
She's into everything. Everything. One time, we lived over where Debbie is now. And there was only little three rooms in when we first got it from Grandma Olive, Grandma Kevin. And we had her in her little bed, her baby bed, in the room in there. And she was just frolicking and doing all of her thing. We were in the other little room just right around the corner there. Boy, we noticed after a bit that she had gotten real quiet.
That's always when the trouble starts.
Yeah, that's what we figured too. So we walked in there, and sure enough, she'd used a potty in the diaper, and it rolled out of the diaper, and she'd scooped it all up and smeared it all over her, all over the wall, all over the bed.
Oh.
She was a mess. She was an artist back then. She had drawn all kind of little intricate designs on the wall with her paint.
With her paint?
Yeah.
Oh.
She ever tell you about that?
No, she never told me about
No,
that.
I
I've heard
figured
stories
she-
about
yeah.
Mom and them, though. Different things that they did. Putting a dead fish in somebody's house.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle was involved in that too.
Yes, he was.
They were all about the same caliber, about the same vintage. You know, with Kyle, there's only about a month or two difference between
Yeah.
Donna and Debbie.
I didn't know that. I thought he was
And
older
Kyle.
than Mom. He's not older than Mama? Oh, I thought he was older than Mom. Huh. What do you know? Oh, man. Did you ever take a vacation with them? With the kiddos?
Yeah, we took off one time to go to San Antonio, to the zoo. We got this new 57 Chevrolet, and this, well, it wasn't new. It was new for us.
A new used.
New vehicle. And we all got all loaded up, and we were going, and leaving out early, and we could get on the ferry, and they said, well, you gotta pull the emergency brake. So we pulled the emergency brake. I've got some movie pictures of it. We get ready to pull off of the ferry, pull the docks on the other side, and the brake won't release. It won't move.
Oh, no.
Can't get it to release.
You don't have good luck going to San Antonio.
So they left us on the ferry, and well, I've got a picture with all the other cars facing this way, and we're facing that way, going back across. So we get on the other side then, and we still haven't gotten it released. And here we come back again to get across the ferry. Finally, we got it banged loose or beat loose or something, but I never did set that brake again all the way around the trip. So we finally get off and go out to the San Antonio Zoo. We got a bunch of movies out of it.
We need to get those
We
out.
still got them out. And that's some good pictures of it. Everybody had a ball. You know, that was really a memorable vacation.
Sounds good.
Had a good time. After we got started.
Yeah, after you got started. Now, what about whenever you used to do lawnmowers out from the shed out here? Your job? Something about
Well, when Nanny and I first got married, the first job I got after we got back from our fiasco honeymoon, and I got her all straightened out and perked up again. First job I got was working for A.J. Shaw and Leon Shaw, I guess it was. They were hauling shell on the beach. Back then you could haul shell off the beach.
Okay.
And they had this dump truck and back it up. We had dug it down where it would kind of sit down a little bit, and you'd have one guy on each side with a big old scoop about this wide. And you load that gravel into that truck. Take about an hour to get the truck loaded. When that one backed out, another one pull in there, and you do it again. No such thing as front end loaders back then. And that's how I broke into married life. Worked our tail off.
I bet you did.
Oh man, that was something else.
And you trapped too, trapped muskrats?
Well, that was one of the first jobs I got. And after a bit, I went to work for the Corps of Engineers, bridge tender. Back at that time, there was a railroad bridge and a highway bridge crossing the Intercoastal Canal. Right. And I worked on the railroad bridge for the Corps of Engineers who were operating the bridge across the waterway, which is the U.S. Corps of Engineers' responsibility for the Santa Fe Railroad. We would swing the bridge around for the trains and such as that. And I worked midnights out there for about 8 years. As these boats would come through the canal, you'd have to holler at them over the sound of their engines and everything. And you'd have to get the name of the boat, the net registered tonnage of the boat, the numbers of all the barges that they were pulling, what they were towing, what their net tonnage was,
oh, wow.
what they were hauling, how much of it, where they came from, and where they were going.
You had to do all that.
On the record. That was commercial statistics. Then before the old man showed up in the morning to go to work at 8 o'clock, I had to have all that stuff typed up and done. I had to keep all the polish, brass polish, and occasionally we'd have to go down and run the old diesel auxiliary engine, start it up and run it for several hours. And just had your regular duties that you do. And then if you had any time left after it got daylight, you go out and mow some grass. But it was a real experience. Then after a bit, they decided they were going to close the bridge down and they were going to transfer us all to another job with the Corps of Engineers. They were going to put me on a seagoing dredge. It went out in the Gulf, dredging out there, dredging these channels and all. I forget what the name of the boat was, but about 2 or 3 years after they were shipping me out there, it sunk in the bay out here.
Oh no.
But I told them I didn't want any part of that. So we went into the lawnmower repair business and put in a little shop back here, had all my parts and everything. That evolved into Evan Outboard Motors. We opened
The store.
an outboard motor shop in 1955, July 1955, in Gilchrist,
The store where it is now?
where the old wooden building is, where
Right.
the Gilchrist Service Center is now.
Right.
Then we were in the outboard motor business for years as Claude's Outboard Service. That evolved into Claude's Incorporated, which a little later on, a friend of mine conned me into going into the Western Auto business along with our outboard motor business. We went along there and let's see, I don't think we wasn't True Value. The store burned in 1972.
I didn't know the store burned.
Oh yeah, we had a mad fire, burned everything out. And we got it repaired, kind of fixed it up, and then we built the new building.
Mm-hmm.
We had the boat barn, which is part of our main store now, but where the ramp goes up. That used to be our boat display building.
I remember playing out there.
When we were in the outboard motor business, we went in and put drop ceiling and siding and all around it, and dressed it up and made a storage area out of it. Then we went into the True Value business along with the Western Auto business and along with the Everett sale. And about that time, then we leased the other part of the old original building to Jim Chapman, Gilchrist Service Center. And here come along another man with representing True Value Hardware and talked us into taking on that franchise too. Western Auto was kind of dwindling out of the picture then. We're dropping a lot of the lines that we needed, so we decided to go along that route. We had 3 operations. And finally, we got rid of all of it, the True Value Hardware store, and that's where we are now, trying trying to maintain and keep it going.
Working hard,
Yeah.
as always.
And during those times, we trapped muskrat during the winter months when things were slow. And back in the 60s, late 60s, I had a job with Gulf Supply Company.
Did you really? You work with Gulf Supply?
Yeah, that's how I got David his job.
His first job, Daddy, huh?
Yeah. Worked for Roy Manus and Gulf Supply Company, managing their duck hunting camp
Okay.
as a duck hunting guide and manager.
Part 2.
Ready to start?
We were talking about the duck hunting, being a guide.
You gonna start it now?
It's going.
You going? Okay. We work for. I work for Gulf Supply Company. I had probably 6 or 8 employees down there. Get these guys in from Philadelphia, fly them in. We go pick them up at the airports and bring them in and wine them and dine them at night.
Mm-hmm.
Fix them supper. They'd gamble, and whatever they wanted to do. And then 30 in the morning, we'd rast them all out and get them all out and take them out in there. We had some little Army track vehicles. We'd take them out to the blind in the mud and water was about that deep, knee deep. And we had about 50 spots out there that we could take them. Really big operation, and we had a really wonderful time. We had these crews from different areas, like Dad worked there in Freeport.
Mm-hmm.
They would come and stay 2 or 3 days, and we'd entertain them. We had Houston, we had Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Beaumont, all of the different areas would bring their men in and their customers, and we would wine them and dine them and entertain them. It was a really big operation. Mm-hmm. Then we had our muskrat trapping too, that was a winter operation, which is a slow time for us down in our store. Yeah. And I would run about 600 traps, which was probably a third or half more than anybody else would run. Get up early in the morning and get in late at night. Caught as many as 300 muskrats in one day, which is unheard of in those days.
A lot.
We trapped for Uncle Jamie White. They owned about White's Ranch out of Stoll. They probably owned 15,000 acres of land, run cattle. It was good for muskrat trapping, and he let me manage his muskrat trapping for him. And I gave a percentage of what everybody else caught too for managing and taking care of the camp. Real good operation. We had a wonderful time out there trapping. Nanny still talks about wanting to hook on to old Big John and hook on to Peter and go trapping. She loved to go out there with Big John and trap those muskrats.
She loves to hunt.
And she loved to hunt.
Well, I got just a few more questions for you. What do you think has been the best invention so far?
What do I think is the best invention?
Mm-hmm.
For what area? There's so many wonderful things that have happened. During our lifetime, we have probably made more advancement in technology and transportation and everything than all of the rest of history put together, if you just stop and think about it.
That's true.
In our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
We have truly lived in the golden age.
That is true.
Oh, you'd have to name the computer, which is a fantastic invention. During our time, we've seen the advancement of the electric light, illumination, all that type of thing.
How about indoor
Aircraft,
toilets?
indoor toilets, I agree with that. That was a wonderful invention. To the plumber, the plastic pipe. There's just so many innovations in technology and industry that several days ago when we were putting up this big tower, this 300-foot tower out here, they had a crane that would hover over that 300-foot tower and set that stuff down. I took some pictures of this family. This is absolutely mind-boggling the way those guys do it. And just so many things. The automobiles, the trucks, just about anything, you know, telephone communications, fax, your facsimile machines,
Everything.
just about email, how they can send pictures and all this stuff over a telephone line.
What do you think?
Television is just
Pretty good. What do you
30,
think?
40 years ago, you couldn't even imagine the things that are
Oh, yeah.
taking place and happening today. It's just so what's it going to be in the next 20 to 25 years?
There's no telling. What do you think the worst one has been?
The worst what?
Invention.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Most all of them are pretty good.
Yeah?
I can't think of anything that's been adversely affected anybody or
Rated R movies.
X-rated movies are one thing that I think is a disgrace. It's absolutely a disgrace. Not just X-rated movies, but the movies that are supposed to be family movies today. You can't sit down and watch a movie with your family without being embarrassed up to your tears, to your ears.
Okay.
I think that's one thing that's out of sync.
Yeah, I would say so too. What's the most memorable gift that you and Nanny ever gave each other?
The most memorable gift that we ever gave each other?
Or what, like a gift that Nana gave you that you can remember as being the best gift she ever gave you? Stumped you, didn't I?
Not really. I think the best gift she ever gave me was all three of my children.
Oh, well, that's so sweet. That's good.
And all you guys.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for doing this for me.
Oh, baby, I'd like to just sit down and with all you kids and tell you about all the mischiefs and everything that we've been into in our life.
It's fun.
We've done a lot. You don't think about it when you're doing it. Think, oh, well, that's just a very little everyday life. It's not. It's something that you look back on. It is. It's been such a pleasure having you here with us.
Oh, love you.
Old Connecticut Yankee.
Oh, don't even say it. I'm going to have to cut that off the video. Okay.